I want to welcome you to how to increase your podcast and other online content, the visibility and the traffic, the downloads and the subscribers through Pinterest. So, okay, I see that we are now live on YouTube. I cannot be looking at me this whole time, so I'm going to go back over to my slide deck. Let's see. We have just about one more minute to go, but I'm going to share my screen. And I hope you are all having a fantastic day. Right before I did my first webinar earlier today, I went over to check my website and I realized that WordPress had a major update in the middle of the night. So on a page that I've been working on, nothing is working. The videos aren't working. The images aren't working. The links are working. So that's a good thing. But what we're here and what we're going to talk about today is Pinterest for podcasters and other online creators. If you create any type of content online, so blog articles, YouTube videos, podcast episodes, if you create lead magnets for your ideal audience, let me think. There are so many different types of online content. Facebook Lives, if you create Facebook Lives, YouTube Lives. I know I already said YouTube videos, but regardless of the type of content that you create, you can be using Pinterest to gain greater exposure, more subscribers, more downloads, more money. More revenue is always a great thing, right? So I'm going to hide my camera and we're going to go straight into this presentation. I want to be respectful of your time. And one of the challenges, one of the misconceptions that I hear the most is that Pinterest is a platform for women looking for clothes, crafts, and recipes. Down in the comments, if you have believed this in any point of your past, or if you still believe it today, leave me a comment down below and let me know that that's you. But I hate to tell you, you are wrong. If this is your first time meeting me, if you have never seen any of my videos, if you haven't listened to the podcast, if you haven't read my blog, my name's Kim Sutton. I'm a wife and a mom of 5. My kids range from 5-year-old twins to a 17-year-old. I'm the host of the Positive Productivity Podcast. I'm the author of the upcoming book, Chronic Idea Disorder. That's a phrase I coined. I get ideas everywhere. In fact, later on in this presentation, you'll see an idea that I had this morning in the shower. I do marketing and business automation for 6 to 7 figure business and life coaches, as well as myself. And with all the knowledge that I know right now, I'm really starting to focus on sharing my knowledge through trainings, courses, webinars, YouTube videos. I'm slowly growing my channel. If you want to help me grow my channel today, I would so appreciate it. Just push like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and I will be back again later this week. But with all this said, I am way past perfectionism. All right. I speak fluent typo and blooper. I have frequent brain farts, and I've experienced the good, the bad, and the ugly in my business. And how does this relate to the common misconception of people looking for, or of women specifically looking for clothes, crafts, and recipes on Pinterest? Well, I'm not a chef. I burn just about every single meal I cook. I'm not a shopaholic. Clothes shopping has got to be one of my least favorite activities, period. I also dislike grocery shopping, furniture shopping, present shopping. If somebody could be my personal shopper, that would be a dream to me. My husband takes care of the groceries, but everything else, you've got it. You're hired. I'm also not a regular crafter. I love to knit, but my life is extremely full right now. So I am not going to Pinterest for knitting or craft ideas. And I'm also not the all-American supermom. Or maybe I am, and that role has just been redefined. But I swear, I'm the one who starts food fights. I draw mustaches on my kids' faces with permanent markers. Please, no judging. And I'm lucky if I send one greeting card out a year. Thinking back to the past 5 years, I don't think I've even done that. As an example of crafts that are created in my house, this is my daughter's Barbie doll. My kids had been in a streak of watching The Greatest Showman, and they decided to turn their brown-haired Barbie into the bearded woman. So that's what happens in my house. I'm sure that some of this also happens in your house, but I love to share that it's not all picture perfect. If you see picture perfect on my Instagram or on my Facebook, I guarantee you that just out of view, there is a huge pile of laundry, and I know that there are always dirty dishes in our kitchen sink. Despite all of this, though, I still generate massive traffic from Pinterest. I have 1 million monthly viewers or more at all times on Pinterest. And while this doesn't necessarily convert into 1 million monthly viewers or visits on my website, I'll tell you that that's never happened. I'm waiting for that day. My traffic has enormously grown since I got my Pinterest processes in place. So the purpose of tonight's masterclass is to give you a solid understanding of the potential Pinterest has for you and your brand. I also want you to understand that just because I'm teaching you how to do this doesn't mean you need to do the work yourself or that you even need to manually do the work. I am all about marketing and business automation, and I would love to show you some of the systems that I use to do my Pinterest automatically for me. All in all, though, I want you to see how and where to make Pinterest work for you, your business, your brand, your podcast, and all your online content. So, yeah, those are my intentions. And I would love if you would share what you want to learn out of this presentation in the comments down below. Let's clean up some of the myths about Pinterest. I'm not going to read these all line for line. If you want to take screenshots, go ahead. But there are 335 million plus monthly active Pinterest users, and only a quarter of those are from the United States. Now, I realize that you might be watching from somewhere way far away from the US, but I want you to look at the big picture here. If you are looking to get your online content or your freebies, your videos in front of a global audience, Pinterest is a great place to do that. In addition, and going back to that original myth that I was talking about, or the original misconception, 40% of new signups are men. Men, okay? So it's not all women on the platform. And 40% of US dads use Pinterest. I know I've seen my husband on Pinterest, and if you saw him, you would probably not think that he is the typical Pinterest user, but he finds value on there as well. And here's another number that I love. Half of Pinterest users, earn over $50,000 per year, and 10% of Pinteresting households make over $125,000. If you have a product or service that you offer to your community and it has a hefty price tag associated with it, Pinterest is a great place to lead people into your funnel. They have money. Go where the money is. I always want you to lead with impact and with serving, but there is no reason why you can't be making money on the back end. Serve first, sale later, right? A few more numbers and I promise I really will skim over this one. Billions of dollars are being spent on advertising. 83% of weekly users are using Pinterest for their buying decisions. Despite the fact that I do not go to Pinterest for clothes, crafts, or recipes, I still find things that I want to buy constantly on Pinterest. I've bought gifts, I've bought office supplies, I've signed up for programs all through Pinterest. And I mean business programs through Pinterest. And 64% of Pinterest users describe Pinterest as a platform where they can find ideas, products, or services they can trust. If you're not leading with trust, then just stop now. If you don't care about your people knowing you, liking you, and trusting you, go away. I know that's really mean, but I am here. I am doing what I do because I want to build a community who knows, loves, and trusts me. And if I can start to generate that know, like, and trust through Pinterest, then by all means, I want to. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, okay, great. Those are some fantastic numbers, Kim, but what does it mean for me and my brand? So I'm going to share that with you now. In order to get to where I did using Pinterest, I used what I now call the E3 Pinterest success strategy. There's 3 E's. You can see them down below. The first of which is make it easy to find you. The second is I appeal is by appeal. And the third is engage and interact. And I'm going to be going through each of those, starting with make it easy to find you. Now, it's really important to know that Pinterest is not a social platform. It is a search engine. Unlike Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, people aren't going to Pinterest to like posts and to comment on posts. Yes, there's the resharing that goes on from the repinning, but this is a completely different type of platform. People are going to Pinterest to search. People are going to Pinterest to browse. But let's just say it again. People are going to Pinterest to search. I know I go to Pinterest to search for ideas, and I'm sure that you know people who have as well. So it's really important to treat every piece of content that you put out there, and especially on Pinterest, as a piece of content that is going to be searched for. It's important to name it properly. It's important to name the images properly. It's important to write an adequate description or an SEO friendly description. It's not all about telling your story because you have limited characters, but it's about using the search phrases that are going to attract the attention of the search engines. And yes, Google does send traffic to Pinterest, and then Pinterest will send traffic back to your website. When you are doing a great job with your SEO, whether it be on your website, whether it be on your YouTube channel, whether it be on a search engine or on Pinterest, I mean, when you're doing a great job there, you get visibility, and visibility equals traffic. Now, this screenshot was taken in October of 2019, but what is really important to tell you about these numbers, and this is from 1 week, okay? I was spending the majority of my time on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Only about 15 minutes a day were actually being spent on Pinterest. And this is so important for me to tell you because if you look at the numbers here, Instagram isn't even in the top 5, LinkedIn isn't on the top 5, and the Facebook traffic plus the Twitter traffic are still just about where Pinterest traffic was. So those two top the second and third generating websites, social platforms were where I was spending more time. However, Pinterest, where I was spending the least time, had more traffic than all the rest. Interesting, yeah? So let's get back to making it easy to find you. The first consideration that I really need you to do is to get rid of fluffy text. And let me tell you a quick story about how this fluffy text came to be. Last summer, my sister was part of my team, and she has a very practical way of looking at things. And she was on my LinkedIn platform or on my LinkedIn profile one day. And she came to me and she said, Kim, if I didn't know what you do, then I wouldn't know what you do by looking at your LinkedIn profile. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, your profile says that you empower entrepreneurs with the systems and support that they need to make time for the self-care that they deserve. And I said, yeah. She said, well, where is any mention about you doing marketing and business automation? If somebody goes to LinkedIn and they search for automation, marketing automation, business automation, Infusionsoft, Keep, any of the other marketing platforms that you use, it's nowhere there. So they're not going to find you. It's like, oh, I was trying to be cute in my profile instead of functional. And because of that, I was prohibiting people from finding me. So this isn't just valid for Pinterest, but I want you to take a look at all of your social platforms. And I want you to look at it from the eyes of somebody who has not yet met you. Does your profile clearly explain to them what you do? And if it doesn't, then you need to consider it. And what are some of the things that you really need to consider are, who are you? Are you hearing that song now? Who are you? Okay, I'm going to stop singing because I know you'll just stop watching now if I sing anymore. But who are you? What do you do? What services do you provide? Or maybe it's products. And who do you serve? And you need to construct your bio or your profile description, your headline, depending on what platform you're on, in a way that speaks to the person you are trying to attract, whether it's our content consumers or content consumers or clients. Okay, so really start thinking about that. Today, my Pinterest profile reads much differently than it did a year and a half ago. You can see right up here at the top, it says Kim Sutton, marketing automation mentor, Infusionsoft expert, launch and branding strategist. I need to give you the disclaimer that the limitation of characters has decreased significantly since I set this description up. And although this description of myself isn't necessarily the most relevant anymore, I am not willing to sacrifice those extra characters by fixing it. I've tried, and it's already told me that it will shorten my headline if I do that. So I'm just going to stick with this until I figure out what I can do. Down below to the bottom right, you can also see that I tell people I'm the host of the Positive Productivity Podcast and other characteristics of myself. This is the sub headline, but it's the first headline at the top that I really want to be attractive to ideal content consumers and ideal clients. All right. So not just here on Pinterest, but go look at all your social platforms this week. And I know I said that Pinterest is not a social platform, but go look at all of your social platforms. And again, from the eye of a stranger who's never met you, would they be able to tell what you do? Okay. If you do nothing else this week, just do that. Moving on and making it easy to find you, however, I want to show you the biggest mistake I made when I first started my podcast. And I've seen so many bloggers make this mistake, YouTubers make this mistake, podcasters make this mistake. They're not titling their content from the eyes of somebody who's searching for it. All right. Unless somebody knew who Rob Dion is, or unless they knew the name of his business, Open Sky Fitness, they likely would not be searching Google for this name. And you can see that the episode title was PP302, PP for Positive Productivity, Rob Dion, owner of Open Sky Fitness. Again, it's not valid because it's likely there's a huge population or portion of the population who doesn't know who Rob is. During our conversation, we talked about his fitness business. We talked about building a business with your spouse. We talked about how he has a Airbnb business. We talked about so much more that could have been highlighted in this title, but I didn't realize that I was missing the boat by not incorporating that into the title itself. So when I finally figured out that I was naming my episodes wrong, I started incorporating them into the pins that I'm now putting onto Pinterest. And you can see here, by the way, I had episode 670 scheduled to go out yesterday. It's running a little bit late. That's all my fault. But 670, I am going through and I'm updating every single episode one by one. And I'm up to about episode 240 now. Those first 240 are on Pinterest. And you can see here, episode 229 is about increasing focus and productivity through simple life changes. Now, somebody could be searching Google or they could be searching Pinterest for how to increase focus, how to increase productivity. And it's really funny considering the times that we're in right now and with so many people working at home that this episode is what I was talking about 2 years ago, right? Because right now it would be a great time that people would be looking for how to increase productivity and focus. And I know I have 5 kids at home. They've been home way longer than I ever expected them to be. I've had to learn how to increase focus and productivity through not so simple life changes. But had this not been the title of this episode, then I guarantee you that it would have been a lot harder to find. On Pinterest now as well, you can include hashtags. So at the bottom of this pin underneath the title, you can see that you can see that there's a truncated version of the description for this pin, but I do include hashtags down there. Productivity methods, increase focus, resilience, adversity. I don't know exactly what the hashtags were for this pin, but I am including hashtags because they do increase the validity of this pin in the eyes of Pinterest. Moving on to a guest episode, this is an example of how I started renaming my guest episodes. Experience Mindful Guidance with Mitch Russo. I don't even include his business name in here because, again, unless you know Mitch or unless you know the name of his company, then you probably wouldn't be searching for this. But people could be looking for mindfulness techniques, how to be more mindful, right? And down in the description, again, I have included hashtags. So I want you to consider how you are titling your content from YouTube to your podcast, blog to blog to vlog, and even your lead magnets, your Facebook lives. You need to be smart with how you're naming your content so that it has a greater chance of getting in front of your ideal content consumers. The next thing that I want you to consider is what topics do you discuss the most often on your content, on your podcast, on your blog? Because rather than keeping the subject matter really vague and broad on Pinterest, I want you to get down to the nitty gritty. Getting down to the nitty gritty on Pinterest makes it a lot easier for Pinterest to send people your way. And I'm going to show you an example of that in just a moment. But I want you to consider what your perfect prospects are searching for before they find you. So in my case, my perfect prospects could be searching for marketing automation techniques, evergreen marketing techniques, productivity methods, how to be more positive, uh, how to establish boundaries in your business, how to take care of yourself as an entrepreneur. So think about what you discuss the most often in your content, and then you can take those ideas and create boards for them on your Pinterest account. So you can see here, this is just 8 examples of my boards, but I talk about authenticity, automation, blog marketing, boundaries, burnout. These are just 8 of 180 different Pinterest boards that I have on my account. And the boards that I have developed are a result of the topics that I talk about the most often and are the most relevant to my ideal content consumers and my ideal clients. Moving on to the next E, we're going to talk about eye appeal is buy appeal. Depending on what source you're looking at, you may hear that you have 3, 5, or even 7 seconds to make a first impression. But I've seen so many clients who have spent upwards of tens of thousands of dollars on their website, but when it comes to their social media presence, they haven't given it a second thought. They have their child create their Facebook header. They have their child, and I'm not saying this as a compliment. They have their child design their tweets, or their pins on Pinterest. This is not something that you should be doing. If you're willing to spend hundreds of hours or thousands of dollars on your website, then you need to be willing to invest a little bit of time into your social media profiles and your Pinterest profile. I want you to design your profile and your pins to be undeniably you. So, the first way that you can start this is by making your header image undeniably you. My header image pulls directly from my blog board, and it's changing constantly. Every time I add a new pin to my blog board, my header image updates. This screenshot was taken a few months ago. Pinterest has redesigned the format recently, but you can see that there's a variety of different pins up there. And then I want you to consider branding your boards. The day I pulled these boards together, or these slides together, I went to my most recent followers and took screenshots of what their boards look like. And the thing that I want you to pay attention to is that none of these board covers, which is the square image, for example, like on this slide, you can see business, ultimate resource for newbies. None of these board covers are personalized. None of them are branded for the person's podcast or content or business. And there's a big sense of disconnect here. Okay. But here's the same screenshot that I already showed you. This is just 8 of my boards. And here's a couple other examples of brands on Pinterest that have given a little bit of time and attention to designing their board covers. This one, for example, is ClickFunnels. It's not complicated. They put an image in the background. They have a gradient background on top of the background picture. And then they put a box with the text of the board name on top of that. And at the bottom, you can see that there's the ClickFunnels logo with a link back to the website. It's not hard, but it does a lot for connecting all the different boards to the brand themselves. So here's one last one from the JimEdwardsMethod.com. You can see here that he has his logo right at the top. He has his website at the bottom, and right there, easy to read in the middle of every single board cover is the name of the board. There's no question what the board is about. There's no question what the brand is behind each of these boards. So I want you to do that to your boards as well. Brand them to be undeniably you. Now, the third, well, it says step 2, but I want you to consider the consistency of your pin design and whether or not you want consistency. And I'm going to show you a few examples of what I've done in the past, what I still continue to do, some of the recent changes that I'm making, just to give you ideas of what you can be doing for your content as well. This says how I was pinning my podcast. Now, in full disclosure, I am still pinning my podcast like this. I had somebody tell me that this could be confusing to people because they might not notice that the episode number and the episode name changes or the picture of the person changes. Yes, they do notice. And even though I have about 2.6 thousand, so 2,600 followers, my most recent pins for my podcast have had over 4,000 impressions. I'm going to say that again. My most recent pins for my podcast on Pinterest have had 4,000 impressions. However, I only have 2,600 followers. So my pins are reaching a larger audience than just my followers themselves. I want to see this happen for you too. I don't think it matters if we keep the consistency across all of our pins so that people know that it's undeniably us. Now, video pins are also a thing now, so I will be testing. I tested it with this one. I'm putting audiograms up on Pinterest now. I make my audiograms with headliner. The reason why I didn't do it anymore after this first one was because in its introductory phases, Pinterest needed to approve the videos, and I wasn't willing to wait. I didn't want to get out of my flow and have to keep on waiting for them to approve the pins. So I will circle back around to this after I catch up with updating all of my episodes. When I was writing written blogs, this is what my pins look like for my blogs. You can see that there was a consistent format on each one. Sometimes the text was a lot bigger. I realized that I needed to include a sub headline below the title for each episode or for each blog article, but the background image reflected what was being discussed in the blog article itself. Then I just really realized that I was enjoying doing video, so my blog became a vlog. If you don't already follow me here or on YouTube, if you don't follow my Facebook page, I like to be doing live videos at least 3 times a week. I've been in the midst of some huge projects lately, so I haven't been as consistent there just because I've been trying to finish up other stuff. But what I started testing out was making a pin with a picture of me from the video, or that I would take immediately after recording the video. And then I was for example, for Facebook Lives, I was repurposing those videos, putting them on YouTube, and then taking the YouTube video and embedding it in a blog or vlog on my website. And that's what I was emailing out to my list. Traffic went up great. My YouTube, it's still not huge. I'm not going to deny that, but it has grown this year from 26 subscribers up to 70, and I haven't paid, and I'm thrilled with that. But what I started to question was, do people actually want to see my face on pins? And I think I have a tendency to be I speak blooper. I have a tendency to be self-conscious. So then I decided to start trying images for the videos that didn't include me in them. And I realized that there was really no difference in the performance of these pins over the pins with my picture on them. So I'm going to continue to test this, and I always encourage you to test your pins as well. On my freebies boards, I typically include 5 different versions of pins for each one of my lead magnets. I never know which pin is going to perform best. If I could bet on it from here on out, I would bet on the pin whose image I dislike the most, because that tends to be the case always. If I don't like the way the image looks, that pin tends to do the best. I don't know. Maybe I just have a bad to style, but those are the ones. So I'm going to continue split testing this. I'm going to see, do the text pins work better than the picture pins? Y'all, size does matter on Pinterest. And yes, I can make quite inappropriate jokes when I want to. But what's really important to remember is that pins should be tall and narrow. If you're designing pins that could also serve as the old school business cards, wide and short, they're not going to perform as well. This is not like Facebook or Instagram. You can use as much space in the feed as you possibly want to. It's basically limited by your image creation tool. So as tall as you want to go, use it up. Because what happens is that you're taking up space that other people can now not take up by having this tall pin. I personally don't try to go enormously huge. I use the Pinterest template from Canva, which is 735 pixels wide by 1102 tall. If you have a Canva, you don't need to take a screenshot of this slide, but if you don't have Canva, feel free to take a screenshot. But again, 735 wide by 1102 tall. That is what I use on Pinterest. And then the only pins, period, that should not be tall are your board covers, and those should be square. And I'm using the Instagram template from Canva, which is 1080 by 1080. Do not go wide and short. Go tall and narrow whenever you can. Again, except for board covers. The third part of this presentation is all about engaging and interacting. Now, again, Pinterest is not a social media platform. So people aren't going to be going there to be liking your posts, to be commenting on your posts. But like produces like. You may have heard Amy Porterfield say it before. I know she was one of the first that I heard it too. But I want you to consider a crack on a windshield. It starts growing outwards, right? Like a spider web. It has a spider webbing technique. And that's exactly, although that's not the most positive metaphor I could be using, that's exactly what happens when you have a post or a pin that goes viral. One person likes it, and then their friends, family, and fans see that they liked it and they start sharing it. And then those people's friends, family, and fans start sharing it. And the circle just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Like produces like. So there's 3 ways that you can engage and interact on Pinterest. The first way is to repin other people's pins. And the way that this happens is that you log into your account, you have a home feed that's established, you start scrolling, and you see pins that you like and are relevant for your audience, and you pin them to your boards. When the people who originally pinned those pins see that you have pinned their pin to one of your boards, it's very likely that they will come over and check you out and see what you're all about. That is how I have grown my Pinterest likes, followers from 600 followers in November of 2018 to 2,600 followers today. Simply, I just want to say this, that I have not paid one penny to grow my followers on Pinterest. I have paid for ads once. I was an affiliate. I wanted the affiliate prize. I bombed my ads. I wasted money, produced no results. I won't do ads again, most likely, unless I have a Pinterest ad expert who convinces me otherwise, because I am doing so well organically. To be able to go from 600 followers to 2,600 followers in less than 2 years, I would do that over and over and over again. But it was all from repinning other people's pins. Way number 2 to engage and interact is to join and repin from group boards. And this is directly on Pinterest. So you'll be able to know that a group board is a group board when you look at the lower left-hand corner of the cover image. And here on this slide, you can see that there's a circle in the lower left-hand corner, and it will represent some, not all, of the different contributors to the group board. So think about the people in your immediate family. If you created a group board, but you all had your own pools of followers on Pinterest. So let's just pretend that you're in a household with your spouse and 3 kids. I'm just using this as an example. And your spouse shares a pin into this group board. Now, not only are your spouse's followers going to see this new pin, but your followers will see the pin and your kids' followers will see the pin. And the same will be the case if and when you share a pin to this board. It's not just your followers who are going to see that pin go up. It's all the contributors. So group boards, whether they're owned by somebody else or if you set them up, are a great way to gain greater exposure. If you're interested in joining any of my boards, almost all of my boards, and I just opened them up recently, are eligible. So just go over to my Pinterest account. It's the Kim Sutton. Check out the boards that you want to join, and there are instructions in the board's description on how to submit to be a group board contributor. So that's option number 2 on engage and interact. And then option number 3 is my favorite, and that's using TAILWIND. TAILWIND is a great tool, and it's what I use exclusively to schedule both my Instagram posts and my Pinterest pins. Right now, thanks to Tailwind and Tailwind Tribes, which I'll share with you in just a moment, I already have pins scheduled through next June. So this recording is, I'm recording this in September of 2020. I already have pins scheduled, 12 pins a day through June of 2021. And I spend no more than 15 minutes a day on my Pinterest account. I just want to take a moment to let that soak in. So the way that Tailwind Tribes works is that a tribe is a collection of various people who, just like a group board actually, are all interested in one topic. And what happens is that you can submit a pin to the tribe, but it is expected that for every pin that you share into the tribe, you will share out one or two pins by a fellow tribe member. Now, some of my tribes that I am a part of have thousands of members, and it's very rare that all the tribe members are in there on a given day and submit a pin, but let's just say they did. So there could be 1,000 new pins shared into the tribe on any given day. I don't need to go in and share all the pins out. I have an option. I can choose whether or not I'm going to share any of these pins out. And I'm only going to share out those that are relevant for me, my business, and my content consumers. If it's not going to help me, my brand, or my content consumers, then I'm just going to hide it. And there's no obligation. Unlike, let's just use an example of Instagram pods or LinkedIn pods, where you are expected to go through a list and comment on every single post that came before yours. That expectation is not here. All you're asked to do is share out one pin for everyone that you put into the group. I don't know about you, but it sounds extremely easy to me, and it doesn't sound extremely easy, but it is extremely easy, and it's through that method that I've been able to fill my Pinterest queue in Tailwind, which again I use for my scheduling through next June. Using Tailwind Tribes, and I've been using Tailwind Tribes since November of 2018. I have had a reach of 42.1 million Pinterest users. So you can see here, I've submitted 10.4 thousand pins to Tailwind Tribes. Yes, and in full disclosure, I've had teams supporting me on this. I've had my fellow tribe members share out 7.7 thousand of my pins, and from their followers, so again, it's my fellow tribe members' followers, my pins have been repinned an additional 582 times. So when you look at all the followers of not only my fellow tribe members who have shared, but also their followers who have shared, I've had an audience of 42.1 million, or I've had a reach of 42.1 million. I have never had anywhere close to that on Instagram or Facebook, and I will not give this method up for anything. I had to let my Tailwind Tribes go for a little bit, and I was so sad to see my traffic drop. This has been amazing. If you want to get in and try out Tailwind, you can go to thekimsutton.com/tailwind to get a free trial. And I strongly encourage you to do that, because I can't even, just with my Instagram scheduling alone, it's been amazing. I am all thumbs on my phone, and being able to pre-schedule my Instagram posts has been amazing. So that wraps up my E3 Pinterest success strategy. And while this was the very, very simplified version of it, I want to cover those 3 steps again. It's 1, make it easy to find you. 2, I appeal as by appeal. And then 3, engage and interact. Now, if you have any questions, I will be sticking around for a little bit, and I'm also going to pull up YouTube, because I'm broadcasting this there as well. I want to make sure that no questions have come in over there. But first, I want to invite you to join me in my new program, Pinterest for Podcasters and Other Content Creators. Now, I've been talking about this program with my fans, with my fellow podcasters, with my community since February of 2019. In September of 2019, I launched the beta. Then I got really busy. We all know what happened in March of 2020. But now, finally, I'm thrilled to announce that the course and the community for Pinterest for podcasters is live. And what it comes with is 12, and I say 12 plus because, as I already shared with you, I have chronic idea disorder and I come up with ideas all the time. 12 plus training modules, and each training module, excuse me, each training module has 3 to 5 lessons within it. So you're going to get, I think right now the count is 35. I could be wrong. 35 to 40. Let's just put it that way. 35 to 40 lessons showing you how to do exactly what I have done. Now, I know that might sound overwhelming, but I want to let you know that there's nothing I can stand less than getting into a course where there are maybe 12 training modules and each one has one video that's 40 minutes long. I start watching it 10 minutes in, one of my kids interrupts me, and then the video resets itself when I've walked away. Then I have to remember where I was because sometimes it takes me a while to think, maybe I should write down where I am in case that happens again. I don't want this to happen to you. So that's why my videos are about 3 to 10 minutes long each. They're bite-sized chunks. You can get in, get the actionable piece that you need to work on right now and leave. Go do it. Come back for another lesson, right? So then you'll also receive worksheets, guides, templates, the template spreadsheets that I use to make the system work for me and my business. I open the doors to everything that I do and I show you exactly what I do. And you're not going to see this anywhere else because I don't share it on my Facebook Lives. I don't share it on my YouTube channel. I don't share it on my blog or in my podcast. But in Pinterest for podcasters, I open the doors wide open and I show you everything. And not only do I show it to you, but I give it to you so that you can do the same. Then there's also the member community built right into the membership site or built right into the training site is the member community. You don't need to go to Facebook. If you don't have a Facebook account, no problem. You don't need to go get one because the member community is built right into the learning platform. And then this is the most important for me because it's the most important for you. I also provide accountability and support from me because Pinterest for podcasters is not for you if you already have 5 courses that you've purchased and you've not completed the content, or if you've never even logged in. I am not interested in taking your money for this course, despite knowing what it can do for you, if you are too burnt out to take action. If you know that your plate is full and you are already financially stretched, then bookmark my website, thekimsutton.com, sign up for my list, and come back next August, next September when I reopen the doors. And before then, before in the next year, I want you to go through the courses that you've already purchased, implement what you've already learned, start to see the results from all of that awesomeness so that all of that awesomeness can pay for this awesomeness. So again, if you're already financially or time stretched, don't sign up for this. I want to see you succeed. I don't want to see you stressed. But the accountability is there if you're ready to take action. I'm going to be checking out your Pinterest profile on a weekly basis. I want to see you optimize your profile. I want to see you design your board covers. I want to see that you're following each of the tips that I recommend so that you can be getting in front of your ideal content consumers. I want to see that you are using all the tips that I suggest so that SEO is picking up on your awesomeness, right? So that's where the accountability and the support come in. Now, I want you to think about How much would one perfect lead be worth to you and your brand? I know what one VIP client would be worth to me and my business. And thanks to what I've been doing in Pinterest, I'm getting those perfect clients. I'm getting those perfect leads now, and I'm converting I'm converting them to clients. But I want you to think about what that would be worth. And the reason I want you to think about that is because I'm not asking that much for this program. I have no doubt that if you take advantage of what I'm teaching in Pinterest for podcasters for this relatively low investment, considering the potential that it has for you and your content, that it will be so worth it, because it's not just about attracting one ideal client. The tools and the tips that I'm teaching in this course are about setting up evergreen strategies that you can set and forget. All the pins that I already have up are now repinning themselves on a regular basis. So there is so much that you can do besides the engage and interact that will be on rinse and repeat. You never need to look at it again. It will be attracting clients, listeners, subscribers, content consumers for as long as your website and your content are up. So you can join today for one payment of $997 or three payments of $377. And the way that you can join this is at pinterestforpodcasters.net. Now, if you're watching this on the day that I'm recording it, and it's currently, and I'm always transparent. If you know me, you know I'm transparent, I'm authentic, and I share the good and bad and the ugly. It's currently 8:50 p.m. on Wednesday, September 2nd, 2020. And this morning, just before my first webinar went live, I went over to double check my website and I realized that none of the videos or the images were working. WordPress had a major update last night and it broke the site. Well, it didn't really break the site. It's just the images and my welcome video on my sales page are not working. I want you to know that the show must go on. When things break in your business, the show must go on because there are people out there who are waiting for you, your mission, your message, your content. You have the potential to impact the world greatly. You can't stop because your website decided to update itself. You know, you got to keep on going. So if you're ready to join today, then you can still go to this page. It's not going to look as pretty as it did yesterday, but the buttons still work and you can sign up now. If you're still questioning what's included, I'm going to walk you through the different modules. So each of these, again, you'll be dripped out 12 modules over 12 weeks. We start with setting up your account. I realize that some people don't even have a Pinterest account yet. I'll show you how to develop your strong profile in module 2. In modules 3 and 4, it's going to be all about your boards because there's a good way and a bad way to set up your boards. In modules 5 and 6, we're going to talk about pinning because yes, there's a good and a bad way to pin. And then modules 7, 8, and 9 dive deep into how to engage and interact on Pinterest. Module 10 is all about repinning and repurposing. I'm all about the evergreen. Again, I have 5 kids. I don't want to be living in my computer 24/7. Sometimes it definitely feels like I am, but I know I would appreciate it and my family would appreciate it if I got away from my computer more. Module 11 shares how I am cross-pollinating platforms, which means I am leading traffic from Pinterest to other platforms where my content resides. And then in module 12, I'm sharing my magic toolbox. There could very well, by the time this whole program goes out, by the time you reach module 12, there could be a module 13 or 14. I'm not going to guarantee that, but I get ideas constantly. And if you hold on a moment, I had an idea this morning. But again, you can join me today for one payment of $997 or 3 payments of $377. And where you go to do that is at pinterestforpodcasters.net. These are some of the results that I have seen through using my Pinterest by not only setting up, by establishing and implementing my Pinterest process. I am never afraid to share my numbers. You need to know that. I am never afraid to share my numbers. On my podcast, I have shared my credit score when it was at its lowest of lows. I've shared my weight when it was at the highest of highs. I've shared the stories of foreclosure and repossession that my husband and I experienced while I've been going through this entrepreneur journey. No, we're no longer going through that, but it's because of my openness and because of my willingness to share the numbers. So for the longest time, I seemed to be stuck at 40 downloads per episode. And now I get anywhere from 600 to 1,000 downloads per episode, sometimes even more. It varies on the content, it varies on the week, varies on the season that the world is in. So, that's a big jump. From 40 downloads per episode to 600 to 1,000 is huge. And that's in the first 30 days. If you haven't heard this number before, I was speaking at PodFest in March of 2020. And Rob from Libsyn shared that the top 50% of podcasts have 130, I think he said 137 downloads within the first 30 or 90 days after release. 137. It doesn't take very much to be in the top 50% of podcasts if that's the type of content that you create. But I love that now I'm not just below that number, or I'm no longer below that number, but I'm way above that number. And I can't wait to get my number even higher because it means that I'm helping more people. Then the next one down, you can see that my website traffic. I was thrilled that I was getting 500 visits a month. I mean, that was making my day. It meant that I was getting, how many is that? 10 to 20 people a day. And now I'm getting 2,000 web visits a week. That's huge. And that was only 23 months ago. I haven't done anything else significant except for keep up with my Pinterest process. In fact, since I started this process, I have cut back on the number of episodes that I put out. October of 2008, we decreased the podcast schedule from 7 days a week. Don't ever do that. 7 days a week to 2 days a week. And then in January of 2020, I cut back to 1 episode a week. So it's not like I've increased the amount of content I've put out. I've just increased the quality, and I've gotten a lot better at working smarter instead of harder and developing the processes and the marketing techniques and the evergreen strategies that work for me, my brand, and my business. Then there's my email list growth. I have only spent $30 on ads this year, and that was to get people to sign up for this series of webinars that I'm running right now. I won't share how many signups that I've had for that, but what I will tell you is that before I started this Pinterest strategy in November of 2018, I was getting about 20 new signups a month. And now, without spending money on ads, I'm getting around 100, sometimes more, sometimes a lot more, depends on what's going on. And if I'm speaking right now, that's not really a thing, but when I speak, it's more. But without speaking, without doing anything significant, I'm getting at least 20 new email signups per month. And then my Pinterest followers, I already shared this, but in November of 2018, I had right around 600 followers. And this month, I know I'm over 2,600. Just a reminder, if you want to join right now, you can go over to pinterestforpodcasters.net. But I have one more slide I want to show you. This is where this morning's idea came into play. I have an early action bonus. And if you sign up for Pinterest for Podcasters by 11:59 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, September 4th, 2020, you'll also receive a membership to my Positive Productivity Pod mentorship community for free through December 31st, 2020. I had launched the Positive Productivity Pod a couple years ago. It's a really busy season. I was trying to do way too much. So I shut the doors in 2019, realizing that if I was going to have them open, I wanted to do it right. And I'm finally in that place that I can do it right. I won't be opening the doors to the public until the end of October. I want for Pinterest for podcasters to be well underway. But if you join Pinterest for Podcasters by the end of day tomorrow, again, September 4th, 2020, by 11:59 p.m. Eastern, you will receive a free Positive Productivity Pod membership through the end of 2020. And what this includes is a library of training workshops. It's going to include a monthly group mentorship call, a monthly group expert training. That's the awesome thing about being a podcaster and having been a speaker at multiple podcasting events is that I have an awesome network of people who would be happy to teach my community. They are impact makers. They're about serving over selling, and they would be happy to come in and share their expertise with my community. There's also a support community. So even outside of the positive, even outside of the Pinterest for Podcasters community that's included in the Pinterest for Podcasters course, you'll also receive access to the Positive Productivity Pod community, where you can build awesome relationships with your fellow members. And then there's also a monthly book club and discussion. I love to read. If you are glued to your screen until the moment your eyes shut at the end of the day, I want you to change that immediately. I want you to find a book, take it to bed with you tonight, and start reading for as long as your eyes will stay open before bed. You should get away from your screens for at least an hour. I know I am sometimes challenged by this, but I want to be reading books that will nurture us spiritually and in our or in our businesses and in everything that we're doing as an entrepreneur as part of the Positive Productivity Pod. Now, I know at the bottom, I say bonus value is 188 plus results. 188 is what it would cost for 4 months of membership. But I know that when you implement what you learn as a result of the Positive Productivity Pod and that the group mentorship calls and the group expert training, it will be worth a lot more. So that really is an infinite number, but you only get those months for free if you join by end of day tomorrow. And you can join the Pinterest for Podcasters program at pinterestforpodcasters.net. Now I'm going to see if there are any comments on YouTube. And then if there's not, I'm going to let you all go for the rest of the night. But I hope that you have received value out of this presentation. I would love to hear your comments. I want to know what you're going to implement right now. And I don't see any questions that have come in, but if you have questions at any time, I encourage you to just ask them. I will come in here and I will respond as soon as I can. And you can always feel free to send me a message through my email if you're on my list, or go through my website, kimsutton.com, or send me a comment through YouTube and I will respond immediately. But again, go to pinterestforpodcasters.net, sign up, and I look forward to supporting you to the best of my ability and to keeping you accountable so that you can reach more people through your content. With all this said, go forth and make it a positive and a productive day.